We're all present, but Mr. Zarzecki, would you like to call roll?
All right. Ms. Chick?
Here.
Mr. Kuzno? Mr. Dreyer?
Yep.
Mr. Iaquinto?
Here.
Ms. Infante?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
And Zarzecki present. All present.
Thank you. Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. Any comments, questions? Mr. Dwyer.
I noticed that PureGreen 52 Barker is back on the agenda for a public hearing, and I thought we had a public hearing for those on July 15th. So I'm curious as to how we're repeating this.
You're correct. Perhaps Mr. Lippins can answer that at his report. Oh, it would be before his report. I'm sorry. Mr. Lippins, would you go ahead and answer that?
Yes. Is this the agenda discussion that we're in now? To follow up on that, and I think I did discuss it at a prior report. There was some discussion about during the public hearing at the last meeting about the sign that had been posted for Michigan PureGreen. And upon investigation by the chair following that meeting, it was confirmed that the meeting notice was did not meet the requirements of the ordinance as was discussed at the meeting. So we rescheduled them for a public hearing tonight. Yeah, you've already, I think, heard all the details, but we want to make sure that proper notice is given and have an opportunity for a new public hearing so we can move that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And to add, you know, it is an ordinance and it should be followed. And this is also to ensure that in case anyone that may have not known about the public hearing is able to have a voice at the public hearing. So just to make double sure. Any other questions, comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Opposed? No one opposed. Mr. Lippins, I'll turn it over to you for a call to the public.
I will do the call to the public. I was also going to ask my colleague Natalie to help facilitate some of the public hearings tonight, but I'm going to do the initial call to the public. So how this works is I will be looking to members of the public to raise your hands. If you're participating by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. *9 will raise your hand if you're on the phone. If you are participating via computer, you can raise your hand by looking on your screen, and there's a little button at the bottom that says raise my hand. I'm seeing one person has raised their hand. I do want to remind everyone in advance of this call that if you've come this evening to speak in favor of a specific case or to voice opposition for a specific case, to hold your comments until that public hearing. And we will be clear when we start that public hearing which site we are looking for comments on. That way you don't have to make your comments twice. But for anything else, we are looking for comments now, and I'm seeing that Kristin has a hand raised. So Kristin, I'm going to allow you to talk now. You can unmute yourself and make your comments. You have 3 minutes. Please state your address.
Thank you, Paul. My address is 8475 Main Street. And this is just a more general question about having more public hearings and the purpose of it. I'd just like some clarification of the process because I know we've done a first round of public hearings. So I'm curious about bringing more applicants into the mix. So if you have a chance to address that at some point in the meeting tonight, I'd be curious to learn more about how this process is going to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. I appreciate it. I'm going to mute you again and just make a clarification that at the end of the call, there's an opportunity for clarifications from the commission, and the chair may choose to ask people to address the comments at that time. So I am now seeing Kevin and Andrea have their hands raised. Kevin and Andrea, if you're both participating by the same call, I think you both have 3 minutes. But please go individually and state your name, or if just one of you wants to speak, please state your name and address. I've unmuted you. Oh, no, I got to do it again. Oh,
can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
Okay, so sorry, I had to kind of step in and out due to kids. Are we talking about now the pure roots, or are we talking about other general?
These are general comments. So I explained that if you have a comment about a specific case, please hold your comments on that case until we open that public hearing.
Okay, so I'll hold that then.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are the only two that lowered their hand for the general comments. So I think that concludes the first call to the public.
Okay, thank you. Clarifications from commission. Mr. Lippins, if you could respond regarding the public hearing question.
Yes. As a kind of brief summary, the marijuana uses, all of the marijuana uses that were permitted in the township are conditional uses that require a conditional use approval. Conditional use approval has a special procedure for approving it that can, essentially be summarized by Planning Commission holds a public hearing. Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the board, and then the board has to make a determination considering Planning Commission's recommendation as to whether or not to approve, deny, or approve with conditions the conditional use request. So every applicant that has applied for one of these facilities, according to the township's adopted procedures, has had the right to choose to apply for conditional use and site plan on their site. And the cases that we are hearing tonight conclude hearing all of the applications we received on those applications for conditional use and site plan. So as was asked during the adoption of the agenda, there was one case that we had a public hearing on last time that didn't meet signing requirements, which is why we're holding that public hearing again. And then there was one case that filed an application after the last public hearings were held, and we are holding that case this evening. There are a few other cases that have withdrawn their application on our agenda that were noticed, and some changes that applicants have asked us to make that I'm going to describe later. But the simple answer is everyone who applies has the right for public hearing, and we are holding public hearings tonight for applicants that either had applied after our last public hearing or in one case didn't meet the signing requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Lippins. Anyone else have clarification? Seeing none, we'll move on. Correspondence. Planning Commission did receive correspondence, one being the Charter Township of Superior, their intent to update the master plan. And we did receive marijuana correspondence regarding the public hearing. Any received after Monday, August 17th will be included into the next packet. And I just want to verify that with Ms. Bird. I see she's present. She's muted.
Ms. Bird, the chair has a question. I can unmute you, although I think you know how to do it, but let me go ahead and do that.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So the answer to Larry's question is yes, I will put it in the next packet.
And there's no others, right, Ms. Bird?
None that I've received.
Thank you. Okay, so before I go into the public hearings, number 7, Mr. Lippins, are there any on here that are not going to take place tonight, just to be clear?
Yes. So, and this was noted on your agenda. We had scheduled a public hearing for Lauren Investments, who applied, is one of the applicants that provided a site plan and conditional use application after our last round of public hearings. And they notified the township that they are withdrawing their site plan and conditional use application. So we do not have to hold that public hearing this evening, but it was noticed, so we wanted it on the agenda.
Correct. So item C, 7C is the one you're referring to, so we will not do that one.
Correct.
Thank you.
And then item 7E, this is not related to any of the marijuana cases, but it is a rezoning case that we will hear eventually, but the applicant requested we postpone this public hearing, and we would like to accommodate that request. So we are recommending that we also postpone the holding of that public hearing.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure before we started.
Related to that, would now be a good time for me to make a note about one of the other cases as well. The Pure Roots case has a piece of that parcel, or the site plan for that parcel includes multiple parcels, and one of those parcels is zoned SR2. This information was not disclosed in the initial zoning compliance application for the site, but then became apparent when we started doing the site plan review. So it was noticed because, of course, they would have the option to pursue a rezoning of this property. But in discussion with the applicant, their preference is to completely remove this parcel from their site plan. And they understand that that means that they cannot have any activity on that site related to the conditional use. And that if they ever want to expand to that site, they'll have to do another conditional use to expand to that site, even if they're successful in the rezoning. So that's kind of the big backstory, but for the purpose of the public hearing tonight, they have provided us with official notice that they are removing that parcel, that's SR2, from their site plan and conditional use application. And they understand that if they, at a later time, choose to pursue that, they will have to file new applications. So when we get to that case, I would say we just need to note that we're not having a public hearing related to the parcel that is SR2, that they've removed that from the application.
Very good. So before we get into the public hearings, I'll explain it to the public how we operate. The commission will call the opening of the public hearings by voice vote. We'll call on the applicant to present a statement regarding their request. We're limiting it to 5 minutes, what we've done in the past. I may call upon the planner for a short summary of the report. We'll call on those of the public that support or oppose the request, and the time limit on those speaking will be 3 minutes. The chair may call on the applicant or the planning consultant for any clarifications. And in this case, as we did last time, after the public is done with their comments, we will return to the applicant if they wish to speak regarding anything that was brought up. We'll put a 5-minute limit on that also. So with that, I make a motion to open case for public hearing, case JPC 200008. Recommend to approve with conditions, or deny the request of Michigan PureGreen LLC, 52 Barker, Whitmore Lake, for
Also-
conditional use to develop the existing structure into adult use and provisioning center. Adult use and provisioning centers are permitted as a conditional land use in the WLDD district per Article 12, Section 36-340 of the zoning ordinance. The parcel number is B-02-05-253-007 in zone WLDD Whitmore Lake Downtown District.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Chick. Mr. Lippins, I'll let you take over the.
For sure, and I've asked
Yeah.
Natalie to help with the public comment period of this. Natalie, of course, has been working with me on the review of all these cases. To start with, though, we're going to ask the applicant to speak, and I think Rob Pizziali is here. So Natalie, if you could unmute Rob, and we're going to give the applicants 5 minutes, although we got a presentation from Michigan PureGreen before, so we'll see what they have planned. So Rob, we're going to let you talk. If you have anyone else from your team, just let us know.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening regarding our plans to put a provisioning center at this location. Like it was addressed earlier this evening by the committee, it's more of a formality. We've made our presentation to the board, and although we have made resubmissions with the plans, considering all of the recommendations and suggestions by McKenna and OHM, and those are included in the new submissions. And if there are any other requirements or suggestions, recommendations that would be included on any further review, we would accommodate the board and include those in any updated or further revisions to our plans. So we're ready to go and move on to the next stage of this process.
Thank you, Rob. And I agree, the Planning Commission has heard from you, so I appreciate you chime in a little bit. So Natalie, I think we can take any comments now.
Okay, so I'm not seeing anyone with their hand raised at this time. Okay, we have, looks like 2 people have their hands raised. The first is NM. So NM, I'm going to allow you to talk now, so I'll be unmuting you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Nate Molko, 305 Jennings Road. So 52 Barker, I'm assuming, is Little Porky's. So just to be clear, we're losing a business that's been here for years to a marijuana business. I thought marijuana was going to bring new business, not substitute current businesses that have been successful and supported by the community for marijuana, kind of like Bobber Down. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, NM. I'm going to mute you now. Okay, so it looks like Dr. Mark, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, but I'm going to allow you to speak now.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is Mark Stanalajczo, 8352 Kearney Road. It's been a while since I've been in front of any of you. I am calling in support of the proposed conditional use permit at the property that is currently Max Marina in Dees. I went to the presentation that the proposed buyers and Yes.
Dr. Mark. I apologize for interrupting you, but I did want to let you know that the case we're hearing right now is Michigan PureGreen, address of which I'm looking for.
Oh, see, I didn't catch that part because I got on after that. So
That's
I guess,
okay. We will be
I guess I'll
holding.
step back and I'll make my presentation or make my comment when the appropriate time is.
Sure,
Sorry.
that's next on the agenda. Thank you, Dr. Mark.
Sorry about that. Thanks.
Okay, so up next, it looks like we have Amy Stevens. So Amy, I'm
Little
going to
pokies.
unmute you now and allow you to.
They're proposed.
Okay, well, that's weird.
Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have to promote Amy to panelist because it's not allowing her to do unmute because of the version of Zoom. So let's see. Okay. Amy, are you able to hear us now? Okay, not hearing anything from Amy, and I'm also not seeing any other hands up at this time. Do we have any other public comment?
Just, so Amy is aware that we've tried to allow her to speak and promoted her to panelist, but we're not hearing from her. So yeah, I think if we can't hear from Amy now, maybe she can get something worked out later and make her comment later in the meeting.
I'd allow that if that's possible.
Okay.
Are there any other public comments, Ms. Bond?
Not seeing any other public comment at this time.
Okay, in that case, I make a motion to close the public hearing for case JPC 200008.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Chick. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. We'll move on to case 7B.
Sir,
Mr. Iaquinto.
yes, Mr. Chair, I need to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you. So in case 7B, I make a motion to open for public hearing case JPC 200010. Recommend to approve with conditions, or deny the request of Pure Roots LLC, 9876 Main, Whitmore Lake, for conditional use to develop the existing structure into a retail and provisioning center. Retail and provisioning centers are permitted as a conditional land use in the WLD district per Article 12, Section 36-340 of the zoning ordinance. The parcel numbers are B-02-06-105-002, part of B-05-223-007, and B-02-05-223-008. And the parcels are zoned WLD D District, Whitmore Lake Downtown District, GC General Commercial, and SR2 Single Family Residential District. Retail and provisioning centers are not permitted in the SR2 Single Family District. And as Mr. Lippins mentioned earlier, the applicant is removing the SR2 portion of this proposal.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Zarzecki. Any comments, questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Lippins or Ms. Bond.
Okay, so Kevin and Andrea, looks like they'll be giving the presentation for Pure Roots. So I am going to allow you to talk now, and unmute you. So go ahead, looks like you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. This is Andrea. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm hoping, I guess, give me a thumbs up if you got the email that I sent a few days ago. Did anyone get the, yeah? Janet got it, but was it not sent to everybody? Yes, did you, it's okay, thumbs up if you got it.
Ms. Bond? Is this the applicant?
No, I am not the applicant.
Larry, that would be my fault. We should start with a presentation by the applicant. So, Andrea, if you don't mind holding your comments, let's hear from the applicant first.
Yep. Let me know when you're ready for me.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. And then from the applicant's team, do we have Reni George? We do have Reni. I'm going to start by allowing Reni to talk. And I'm going to promote him to panelist so you can see the applicant. And then there's Reni. Reni, can you also let me know if others from your team are here this evening?
It's just me, and
okay.
If I could, I do have a presentation to go through.
Yes, and I have that. Do you want me to pull it up, or would you prefer to pull it up and share your screen?
I have an updated one. I could share my screen.
Okay. You have 5 minutes because you are the applicant. So start when you're ready, please. Thank you.
Can I share the screen or?
Yes, you can. Yep. Did I not allow you to do that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I see.
Wait, I think I can. Let me see here.
I think all panelists can share their screens. There you go. We got it.
You got it? All right.
Yep.
All right. So I do want to thank the Planning Commission for this opportunity to present why Pure Roots is a great fit for Northfield Township. I want to give us a little background. You know, our principals and partners include Rialto, which is a real estate fund that manages $3 billion and 30 million square feet. We've done some great redevelopment work in communities that needed a lot of work, including Sunset Park in Brooklyn, which was 6.5 million square feet of industrial office retail into an unbelievable business hub. Over 30 acres of historic Bush Terminal in New York City. That, you know, whole development, we were the lead, and it was unused and asbestos ridden. And, you know, we poured enough money in there to make it a viable epicenter of, you know, technology and other retail walkable spaces. We also did the Woolworth building and repositioned that building 1 million square feet in the historic financial district in New York. All to say that we come with significant real estate development and redevelopment of underused and underutilized assets and in space. We have a portfolio of companies, including the second largest T-Mobile dealer in the country with 240 locations, 2,000 employees. We're essential business located in 18 states. We have a biotech company that's publicly traded based in Michigan. We also own a federal TTP import license. So we have a license import vodka from overseas by the federal government. We currently distribute in 10 states. We have the only hemp flavored vodka on the market. In addition, we own a Dachi, which is a restaurant in downtown Birmingham that we'd like to pop multiple locations all across Michigan. We think it's a viable concept to go into at least 10 more locations in the state of Michigan. I'm going to do a short video, and I don't think you could hear the audio. Let me know if you could hear the audio or not. This is an existing dispensary in Ann Arbor that is currently fully operational. 3430 Washtenaw, which is on M23 and Washtenaw, so it's not too far. It's about 15 minutes from Northfield. As you can see, it is a high-end apothecary style, elevated shopping experience. Nothing green. All of our cannabis is is sold in prepackaged jars inside of boxes. So, the first thing people notice is that our stores do not smell like cannabis. Everything is not sold out of bulk. It's all prepackaged. And we've taken extra care developing carbon filtration technology to make sure odor doesn't emit from our location and odor doesn't emit in our location. So when we open up the individual jars, customers can smell the difference. We offer premium packaging. The reason why we do some of the packaging is, one, customers walking out won't have, exposed cannabis, and B, it's just an elevated shopping experience. We categorize our flower in terms of feels and do an extra level of testing to make sure we have the highest, most premium quality. Another key factor, and we're going to get into in the presentation, we went for the last 2 years and developed a proprietary POS system. And coming from the payments world is one of our largest investments. A 100% cash basis business provides significant security risk, and not as much for robberies, but for employee theft. So we went to the drawing board and developed a proprietary POS self-payment kiosk. Customers enter cash right into the machine. And in light of COVID, this ended up, offering an extra benefit where employees don't have to touch cash. So customers enter cash into a machine, which is our self-payment kiosk. Change is then emitted from the machine, and no employee ever touches cash. Because of this system, we have banking. So we have a banking relationship of a federally chartered bank, not a community bank, that basically will take secure transport of our cash right from our dispensary. We also have a text messaging system for appointments. This transaction, the unique thing about Pure Roots, as we go through the different iterations of customer transactions, and most communities are saying, hey, is there going to be a long line? There's going to be a ton of traffic. We do delivery, we do curbside, we do in-store trafficking. So from that perspective, we offer a unique shopping experience. We could turn people in and out of the store in under 2 minutes. So like I said, this is a unique set apart factor. You're not going to get a bunch of police reports for employee theft, which is the number one public safety issue when you're talking about having a dispensary in your community. Employees never see the cash, never touch the cash. It's COVID safe. It also gives you live revenue recognition. So whenever we, like in Northfield, we're proposing a 3% of sales contribution to local community projects, whether it be development projects or sidewalks. This, system will give you a link, and you could actually see your daily contribution amount from a township management perspective. So you don't have to guess what you're going to get in terms of that 3%. And it's great for future budgeting. As we said, this is invented and owned by Pure Roots, and no one else has this.
Reni, your time is up. So if you could wrap it up quickly, I'd appreciate it.
All right. So this is the elevation that we have for Pure Roots. We have contemplated a, high-end apothecary style type, retail footprint with sidewalks. We plan to, use the docks as a day dock system. We will manage the parking lot. We will not allow individuals to trespass to our parking lot that are not our customers. So we will have it fully attended and monitored 24 hours a day. So which should reduce the traffic. We are reducing the retail footprint and increasing the available traffic. And because we're not allowing people to access boats from foot traffic into the docks, we will reduce the traffic, which I understand is much of the concern that was given to the Planning Commission from other individuals. We hire local, and we're the only company that has a labor agreement with the Teamsters, $15 to $45 per hour salary, access to Blue Cross, and our goal is to hire 80% in the local community. Once again, our proposal does not include SR2 parcel. We're only including the WDL-W parcel. We're looking at a $2 million investment. We are including sidewalks that wrap around the building. Dee's Ice Cream is actively looking to relocate downtown. We are 1,163 feet away from the nearest potential dispensary site. We're proposing a solid fence on the north to draw a clear separation of private property and provide privacy to the adjacent residential parcel that is actually now one parcel away from our use. reducing the current building footprint by 1,500 feet, which will increase the on-site parking. I want to thank you for your time and appreciate you giving us an opportunity to present through this process.
All right, thank you, Reni. There we go. Ooh. All right.
Okay, so
Now
I see.
Yeah, now we can resume public comments. And Reni, I'm going to go, or Reni, can I ask you just turn your video off, and
Yep.
we'll keep you here in case Planning Commission has questions. Or
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm no longer seeing Susan's hand up. So Susan, if you do have public comment, you're more than welcome to put your hand back up. Oh, I see it again now. There you go. Susan, I'm going to allow you to talk, so I'm going to unmute you now.
Susan McFall, we're waiting for you. Okay, let's move on. See if Susan can come back in a minute.
Okay, so next we have Kevin and Andrea. So Kevin and Andrea, I'm going to unmute you now. So go ahead with your comment.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just go ahead and read the email that I wrote, just because I'm not sure if everyone received that or not. Thank you for your time today. Kevin is not here. My husband Kevin's not here with me, but we were able to speak with Sam and Reni, who addressed several of our personal concerns regarding living next to a medical and recreational marijuana dispensary. So we are the home next door at 9963 North Main Street. We understand now that the dispensary would replace Max Marina and Dee's Place and would not be a third business on the already busy property. And Pure Roots has agreed to pay for fencing that would mitigate a lot of our privacy concerns. So we really feel that would get rid of our concerns around traffic, parking, and trespassing on our property. So we're really thankful to them for that, and want to thank them just for working with us there. However, we do still feel that a medical and recreational marijuana dispensary at this lakefront location is not the best choice for our community. It would replace 2 existing businesses with 1 new business and is not a good use of lakefront property. So great if these can be relocated downtown, that's great, but that's easy to say and easy also not to actually follow through with and not to do. So saying that at this point doesn't really mean a lot to me unless there's actually solid plans and I see that it's moving forward. Also, the lakefront property is very limited, and I think using the lakefront for a dispensary just doesn't make any sense, and I just would hate to see the lakefront used that way. Oh, and then another point. So when the Northfield Township residents, including ourselves, voted to reject the ban on marijuana businesses, we did it with the intent of bringing new businesses to our community, not taking businesses away. So even if Dee's relocates, then we're getting rid of Max Marina, and those are popular businesses in our community. Also, a dispensary at this location would encourage operating a boat under the influence of marijuana. The proximity of the proposed marijuana establishment to the lake and proposed day use docks would encourage recreational marijuana use on the water. Operating a boat under the influence of marijuana is impaired driving and would put others using the lake at risk. We feel that a lakefront medical and recreational marijuana dispensary, especially one that is proposing day use docks, is dangerous and irresponsible. My third point was around the single family district. So a lot, so I see that they've taken that away, but it still is really close to a family neighborhood. And I just hate to see any dispensary go in right next to a neighborhood. I'm okay with something in a business area, but in a neighborhood, I just think that that's not a good thing for families. So we're thankful for Pure Roots for working with us around fencing, but again, we just don't feel that this is the right choice for our community. We're okay with Pure Roots, but just not at this location. Thank you.
Now, and then we have Barbara Roush up next. So Barbara, I'm going to unmute you now and allow you to talk. Barbara, I am trying to unmute you. I'm not sure if you can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Like Andrea, I am concerned about having any boats docked where there is easy access to marijuana. But before I get into that part of it, right now, there's considerable number of boats docked there. And on the weekends, it's quite busy, which is wonderful. And my observation is that many of those people bring business to our community and go to various restaurants. And I do not want to negatively impact that ancillary business that all the restaurants are getting. Also, I have concerns about boater safety in general, and also loss of the amenities that those businesses provide right now. I do not have any problem with Pure Roots. It seemed like they have some exemplary business practices, but again, that specific location on the water is quite concerning.
Thank you, Barbara, for your comment. I am going to mute you again now, and then it looks like we have Dr. Mark up next. So Dr. Mark, I am going to unmute you now and allow you to talk.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about the mix-up before in the last public hearing. So Mark Stanalajczo, 8352 Kearney Road. I had the opportunity to see the presentation that Pure Roots gave at the marina facility there last week. Same presentation that they were presenting today. I thought it's a well thought out business plan. Now, I understand that people in the community don't like to have things changed. People don't like change in general, but change is one of the things that we need to have happen in our community, since we've talked about change, we've talked about bringing in business, we've talked about doing different things, yet we have a tendency to shut those down because we don't really want to change anything, at least not to the extent that makes people feel uncomfortable. Marijuana is an uncomfortable subject for people to talk about anyhow, because you have so many people that believe that it's still something that's a gateway drug. It's negative for the community. Unfortunately for them, you know, we had a public vote and the community as a whole overwhelmingly supported the use and the sale of marijuana products. Now it comes down to where to put them. I know Mr. Iaquinto's had the property, at least wanting to sell the property that he has for a number of years. So who do you sell it to? And, you know, somebody that wants to run a marina, somebody that wants to run an ice cream shop. Well, those are kind of limited. So, you know, the opportunity that comes along is presented because the community supports the sale of marijuana products, whether people like it or not. And so I believe that even though there might be a better place to put this, I don't believe that just because somebody believes there should be a better place to put it or better use of the lakefront, that they should be discounted and not approved for this. So I'm recommending that you do make a recommendation to the township board to do the conditional use permit for Pure Roots at this facility. And we only have to look at Detroit. Detroit used to have where they were going to have all their casinos on the riverfront back 20 years ago. And then they came through and lots. The city council came in and they said, nope, we want them scattered in different places. And all that did is it ruined that area because they wanted to save the riverfront. And this to me is the same type of mentality. So that's my opinion, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I'm going to mute you again now. And then it looks like we have Koenig up next. So Koenig, I am going to unmute you and allow you to talk now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just wanted to say that I also live on Main Street, and I just wanted to second what Andrea said. I thought she hit it out of the park. And also I think the people bringing up the idea that the idea was to have additional businesses in, not to, you know, switch out the ones that we already have and end up with, you know, we want to have a net positive number of businesses, not, you know, we have blank storefronts here. So I don't think this is a great use of lakefront property. And I understand, you know, the point that the doctor made about, yep, it was voted, but by the same token, you have a lot of people here who didn't want it. And I think you need to take their viewpoint into consideration when locating these businesses. So I understand, you know, people like this business model, but I don't think it's a great location, and I'm done.
Thank you. I am going to remute now. And then it looks like we have Walter Anderson up next for public comment. I just want to remind everyone, state your first and last name and address. And then you do have 3 minutes for your public comment. So Walter, I have unmuted you now.
Hey, really, it's Polly McNichol on Nala Road, Whitmore Lake. Couple questions, and I haven't been as involved with this as I should have been. So it looks like this is Sam Iaquinto's property. So I'm safe to presume that he'll be benefiting from this financially. Has he ever, even in the very beginning of this, been involved as a planning commission member with this application? That's a question for you all. And I'm with these other people where it's replacing businesses, not adding businesses. And boy, the number one problem with downtown is lack of lake frontage. And this just really takes more of it up. So thought I'd throw that out too. And that's all I have.
And now, and it looks like we have Steve up next. So Steve, I'm going to unmute you and allow you to talk now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I got a question on if the conditional land use application changed tonight. Why isn't this even on the agenda now for comments? They eliminated the SR2 single. That's the first point I wanted to make. The second point is, can you put a marina at any location in the city or in Northfield Township compared to a pot store? Marinas and dockage are important for boaters and recreation and the residents and the visitors, which really make the community what it is. Because the marina or the ice cream store is still back in the 70s and hasn't put any improvements into them, doesn't mean we need a brand new pot store. When I think a marina is so much more important to a community, because you just don't have them all over the place. And you're talking to somebody whose wife's family founded Chris Craft Boats in Algonac, Michigan. So we know how important a marina, waterfront, lakefront, recreation, that's what we live for. And to think that you eliminated to put a pot store on Whitmore Lake, I think is preposterous. And they obviously the applicant sounds like they have the wherewithal to put the store anywhere they want. And they have one right down the street in Ann Arbor, of which I have property as well. I don't understand why anyone would pick this location for that use. I don't know anyone that would consider that use at that location. I think it's foolish. And you're talking to a 36-year veteran real estate person that's handled 1,000 properties in the southeastern United States and in the Midwest. And to think that the marina goes away and the ice cream shop goes away and you put a pot business on that location, no access for docks, an armed guard 24/7 in a lit parking lot, and no one's allowed to use the dockage. I just think it's a joke. And for the commission to even consider this use, I think is laughable. Those are my comments. I'm a little disappointed that the application was changed, and yet we don't get enough time for comments on that change. That's all I have for you right now.
I am going to review again now. It looks like we have Ann Iaquinto up next for public comment. So Ann, I'm going to unmute you and allow you to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment that there were a number of people that just spoke who live directly across from the downtown dispensary that is an opportunity to go in as well. They live closer to that than they do to the location at Max Marina and Dee's place. So I find that kind of interesting with their comments. And also that we could sell our business at any time to anybody for the most part. I am Sam's wife, if you don't know who I am, Natalie, sorry. But, you know, everybody wants the best for this community. Nobody wants to see this town go down. When you have a business, it's always for sale for the right price. And this was an opportunity. That's where we looked at it. We didn't seek them out. So please make sure everybody understands that as well. This was something that we would not have even thought of asking someone to buy our business to put this kind of business in. So we are looking at it just like the rest of the community to see where we fall, and that is how it is. But thank you for the moment.
And for your comment, I am going to mute you again at this time. Looks like I don't see any other hands raised at this time. Are there any other members of the, okay, I just saw some more. So first is going to be NM. NM, I am going to unmute you and allow you to speak now.
Sorry, I didn't hit unmute. I just wanted to say thanks to Sam and Ann for everything they've done for the community. But to hear Reni say that the Teamsters support a marijuana dispensary or shop or whatever it is, that blows my mind. I run a Teamster shop, and there's no way in hell any one of them guys would ever support marijuana shops, because as a DOT truck driver, you know, you're mandated by federal law. So there's no way in the world, Reni, whatever it is, that blows me away. And I think you've just offended 99% of the Teamsters that I know, from at least local 299 and local 406. But Sam, I wish you the best. That's all I got. Go ahead and mute me.
Up next, we have Stephany Yohn. So Stephen, I am going to unmute you and allow you to talk now.
Hi, it's actually Stephany Yohn, and we are at 339 North.
Stephany, it looks like you are muted. 1 second, let me unmute you again. Stephany, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, so I'm at 339 North Point. I don't think that is the correct location. I first of all, we're not in support of any dispensaries within the community, but it is not, like several other callers and community members have said, the greatest location based on the lakefront property. And in addition to, what does it say that that is really the main thoroughfare into the community? People are getting on and off US 23, and the first thing it says is, welcome to Whitmore Lake, Northfield Township. Hey, look at our pot dispensary. And so I just don't think that gives it the correct community, family feel and vibe, recreational feel and vibe that the community intends to have. So that's my opinion.
And then we have Bill Garrett up next. So Bill, I am going to unmute you and allow you to talk at this time.
So Bill Garrett. Bill Garrett, we're waiting for your comments.
Yes, okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to weigh in. I'm sorry I did join late, so I missed the earlier ones. The first one I heard was Ann's comments. I did, when I saw the big sign on the marina there, I looked that over pretty carefully, and I was really puzzled. I thought, wow, Pure Roots. What an innocent and marvelous sounding business. It looks like maybe they provide water or water treatment or something. And then I read the details, and they talk about being a retail and provisioning company. Doesn't give you any idea that it's a pot shop. And so that just really annoyed me. It made it look like a very underhanded effort to get this whole thing to go through. Kind of like, you know, in the smoky back room here, we don't want the public to know that the attempt to get rezoning is just going to result in this monstrous pot shop, and we're going to lose two businesses that are really, really important and essential to the community. Going to lose the marina, the whole source of all kinds of boating things and fishing things, and we'll lose that nice little D's ice cream shop that I'm regularly bringing my grandkids to. You know, we get on the pontoon. I live right on the lake. I'm on North Shore Drive. Bring the pontoon down and tie it up and go for ice cream. And that's just a huge, huge benefit to the whole lake community. And there's lines there all the time. It's a very, very successful, I think, operation. And to lose both of those businesses and to put in a pot shop is just, to me, just unconscionable thing for the leadership of the community to even consider. That's kind of my main approach. And again, the pot business, I understand that there's legitimate medical needs for marijuana. The CBD can have some positive things, but I'm not fooled that a lot of the business is just people looking for the high and looking to use it recreationally. And to me, it's not a positive thing at all. And if it needs, and I know we've had the discussions and we've had the votes and have been allowed it to be okay to come into the community, but I think to have it come in and displace two businesses that are really important to the community is just totally the wrong thing to do. Let's look at some other unused building, of which there are several, right, in Whitmore Lake. We're, you know, a little greenfield site. There's a lot of places to put in this pure pure type of pot shop, if that's what we want to do. But I really dislike the idea. And I certainly understand Ann's point about, businesses are always for sale, and you look, that they didn't seek out this thing. But I'm confident that if they really tried, they could find somebody to buy those businesses and continue to operate them. If the Iaquintos don't want to operate them anymore, fine.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
your time is expiring. If you can wrap it up.
Okay, sure. Well, that was my main point, that I think certainly I don't hold it against them wanting to get something out of the business, but I think as far as the impact on the community, it'd be a very, very much more positive impact to sell it to somebody who actually wants to run those businesses the way they're being run now. They're essential services for the community. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. I am going to remute you now. And it doesn't look like we have any other hands up at this time. Are there any other public comments that we have not heard from yet?
Natalie, I'm seeing someone named Steve with their hand raised. I just want to confirm that we already heard from that person.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to make a correction for the record with respect to Ann at the marina said. I would be the closest to the marina. I'm literally right across the street. So I don't know, that's closer than the home. And if the township is interested in continuing for the development of that property, then they're going to be terribly disappointed by eliminating that marina, that dockage, and the lakefront that exists now, and putting a pot shop there. So there's so much land that's available that can go and thrive and not hurt the residents or the marina, the dockage, or anything else. That's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. I'm seeing that the chair maybe has a comment.
I just want to say that person had their 3 minutes, did they not? You're muted, Paul.
I said thank you. So I think he kept it brief and it was a follow-up. So I appreciate that, Steve.
Do we have any other public comment at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up.
Thank you. If there are no more, I would like to give the opportunity 5 minutes to the applicant for response.
Yeah, I mean, so to address a couple of their concerns, one on the Teamsters, Teamsters, we have a labor peace agreement with Teamsters. So in essence, we're adding to the workforce. That was a requirement of the recreational rules as of August of this year. So in being compliant with the state of Michigan rules, we did sign a labor peace agreement with the Teamsters. And if you want to check on that, you could call Kevin Moore at Local 299. But to the overall concern, right? So when the municipal ordinance was passed and when Pure Roots looked at the real estate, we looked at what the ordinance defined as available property and the zoning that could be used for this specific purpose. And this presented an opportunity that it qualified, was in the right zone, and we pursued the opportunity, and to our calculations got an advantageous deal on buying the piece of property. There were no requirements of adding a net positive business. There was no extra points for vacancy. There was no extra points for locating it in a downtown district. We are 1,163 feet away from the next available dispensary. That distance can be traveled in a car in less than 1 minute. So in terms of getting off, M23, it's either us or it's going to be a minute later, you're going to see another. So in that respect, I'd like to, present that to the Planning Commission saying, hey, the use qualifies, and B, there was no consideration of the ordinance, or we would have considered extra points for being in a vacant, non-use site. So as we read the rules and the regulations and the application process, we pursued a site that qualified for the use. that, gave us a maximum amount of commercial viability. And, there was no restrictions on not putting it on the lake. If there was, we would have looked at another site. But since there was no restrictions, we went through the business case of putting it where the closest to the highway access. And, for a commercial business and new development and putting $2 million in a property that probably hasn't been updated in 25 years, you want to be close to a highway, just like any other retail business. I know people have a lot of strong feelings on, cannabis, and then objecting to the specific location may, be a reason to protest against the use of cannabis. There are, we have a 50% business. 50% of our business is to pediatric cancer patients, long-term pain patients. The medical use of cannabis has alleviated the use of narcotics. We've had a number of white paper studies that this produces a huge avenue for pain relief for people with chronic pain instead of being addicted to narcotics, which is currently its own drug pandemic in the U.S. So I'd like to present that to the council, it's also to the planning board, that there is viable patients and access from the highway to get to a cannabis store is beneficial to those patients. But for the consideration of, hey, locating this on the water, to my reading of the ordinance and the application process, there was nothing that prohibited the location of this use on the waterfront. And we, are open to leaving the docks as a day dock to allow businesses to benefit, and the sidewalk that wraps that we will, install for the increased walkability of the business, of the community, will allow people to come in off the day docks. They're using a sidewalk system, access the day docks, and access the building, and businesses downtown. So we, want to be good neighbors and want to help the other businesses downtown. So into that promotion, we did approach some of the bars and restaurants in the area and said that we, have a monthly purchase of $5,000 of gift cards to local businesses that we hand to customers as customer appreciation. So we do active, integration with businesses to promote their business with our customers, because we will be drawing from outside the community. So that should increase commercial viability.
Your time is expiring. So you can just wrap it up.
Yeah, and the other issue in terms of, so the state law prohibits any use of cannabis on premise. The docks are on premise. We will actively ensure that individuals won't use cannabis on the docks, and operating a motor vehicle under the influence of cannabis is illegal, just like liquor, but you're not cutting the amount of liquor stores that's near a dock, because, that's an accepted vice. So I think, pushing the fact that this is going to increase or not increase cannabis use on the lake when you have a store 1,000 feet away, 1,163 feet away, I think is a moot point. I mean, individuals that use cannabis are generally more responsible than individuals that drink. So you have less traffic incidents, less motor vehicle incidents of people under the influence of cannabis than you would do alcohol and any motor vehicle. So, we will police our property, including the dock, to make sure that there is no cannabis use, to be compliant with the state law, not anything to do with zoning, just to be compliant with the state law, which prohibits any type of use, edibles, smoking, flower, vape, on premise.
Reni, your time has expired. Thank you.
Chair, do you have any questions or comments, or would you like to close the public hearing?
I have none. Anyone else? Any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for case JPC 200010.
Support.
I think it was Mr. Zarzecki, support. Any questions, comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And we'll move on to item 7D. I make a motion to open a public hearing for case JPC 200009, Moshky LLC, The applicant is requesting to amend Chapter 23, Ordinance 19-67 to permit where marijuana event organizers in temporary marijuana events.
And Natalie, I know we have Travis here, and I'm not sure who else is going to speak in regards to the case.
Travis Copenhaver and Mr. Raspatello.
I need support to open a public hearing.
Support.
Support by Mr. Zarzecki. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Ms. Bond will let you get with the applicant.
So, Mr. Raspatello, I will allow you to talk at this time, as well as Travis Copenhaver.
Hello. Hi, some new faces. I don't know if you guys can see me right now, but hello, I'm Mike Raspatello. I've been in love with Michigan for over 35 years. Grew up going to cabins on the west side of the state, hockey tournaments in Warren and Birmingham, and had a lifelong obsession with going to U of M. I hope that didn't lose me half the room, but if it did, I want to make it clear I have no issue with state or any other Michigan schools. I always hated Notre Dame. Anyway, when I did attend U of M in 99, I spent so much of my time exploring friends' rural properties that, you know, around where you guys are, that took 10 minutes to reach but felt a world away. And now, 15 years later, after working in live events and experiential marketing and venue ownership, I am extremely committed to a dream of opening a venue nestled in this place I've loved since I was a kid. Our team, the Moshky LLC team, has 50 years of combined event, construction, real estate, legislative experience. And we hope to open a farm-based event center suitable for a range of intimate yet spacious events like, you know, pop-up dinners, live music, comedy, theater, built for a post-COVID or for a COVID reality with obviously no overdependence on packing large groups of people into this event center. Picture a larger version of a barn where you've been to a wedding, you know, nestled within 20 beautiful acres and you're picturing the right thing. This venue would be available for rent by both individuals and businesses. It would host glamping and kind of, you know, high-end teepees or Airstreams or A-frame mini houses when open for an event. This venue, our plan for this venue necessitates less than 50 events per year. So, you know, we'd be very willing to donate this facility to the township for literally hundreds of days per year. And to that point, the biggest thing I can really say tonight is we're really only interested in this if the municipality sees value in having us. You know, we'd love for you guys to be a stakeholder in all phases of development, from, you know, location choice to really all the details regarding how we would operate this venue and the types of events we would welcome. And we'd make a commitment not to open until late next year when there's a vaccine or, you know, treatment readily available. We honestly can't imagine building something in this place where I'll someday want to retire without prioritizing, you know, the safety of our customers and the consideration for our neighbors. And obviously foundational to a business like this and the work all of us do every day is minimizing the disruption to the community, which includes a particular focus on noise and traffic mitigation. If you're picturing something big like Coachella or Electric Forest on the other side of the state, or even a single show at Pine Knob, descending upon Northfield, this is not what we're intending. There's nothing wrong with those businesses, but that is not what we are trying to build. Instead, this is something that annually would draw less than a third of the folks that attend, you know, the Renaissance Festival, or, you know, most of the events would be smaller than an average night at Hill Auditorium or Michigan Theater. So what does this have to do with temporary cannabis events? In order for us to be comfortable with this massive investment in undertaking something where we see a, you know, very conservative path to $15 million of local economic activity in the first 5 years, we just need to enable that this legal product category can support us as a potential vendor, you know, renter, sponsor. It obviously can be realistically the difference between a business like this succeeding and failing. You know, especially, like I said, one designed for a social distanced reality that doesn't, you know, overly rely on selling a bunch of tickets and packing people in order to be profitable. You know, this is a high-end venue that would be less cannabis focused than Pine Knob is beer focused, for instance. This cannabis friendliness means nothing more than at certain events, we'd love patrons to be able to enjoy a CBD infused menu from a famous chef, or like a low dose cannabis tea product at their Shakespeare in the Park, and stuff like that. So we really just wanted to paint the picture of the type of business we're trying to open in Northfield, and hoping that will allow you to consider some of the event types and event licenses we would need to do so. I'm going to turn it over to Travis to speak more to those license types.
Thanks, Mike, and hello, Northfield Township. I know you've probably heard from me previously. I am assisting in my attorney capacity, one of the dispensary applicants. But I have also been very active in my personal career in what we call the special event licenses. I personally served on the Marijuana Regulatory Agency's work group for that license type, and I've been working with Mike and his team on trying to locate a community that we can work with. And like Mike said, it is our strategy to initiate a project like this with community involvement. We don't have a location in mind in Northfield. We were looking at certain sites, but if we were to proceed with a project like this, we would want to do that with the support of the community, not, because the community created an opportunity we took advantage of. I'll try to keep this brief because I know we only have 5 minutes, but it was important for us that you get an idea of the type of business opportunity Moshky wanted to create in a long-term capacity, but it's also important that you recognize that this would be what we're requesting of you tonight is the first of many important steps we would need to take along the way as we pursue this project with your township. There are several business opportunities available to those interested in the cannabis space. One of those opportunities is the license type called a temporary event, and that is what the text amendment is. The scope of our request specifically tonight would be to begin consideration of allowing this license type in general in your community. We wouldn't be asking you to approve our business model, our location, or a specific event. Temporary events, the license type, are just that. It's a license available under the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act that allows an event to feature adult use cannabis on a temporary basis. These events are approved and need to be approved by both the local municipality, which would be your township, and the Marijuana Regulatory Agency. And these are events where on-site sale and consumption of marijuana products are allowed, but only on a temporary basis. Each event is usually just 1 to 7 days, depending on the scope of the license sought. And again, it is to approve on-site cannabis sale. So it's not unlike a beer tent or a festival experience where someone's getting the approval for alcohol sales. This license type allows the approval of cannabis sales. But just like a beer tent would be a temporary setup compared to a bar or a liquor store, this license type is a temporary setup as opposed to a fixed location cannabis license type. The other marijuana retailers applying to you, which obviously you've been very focused on in the township, for example, would also be able to seek temporary event licenses if they wanted to do some sort of or have some sort of presence in the township during a township event or special occasion in your community. There is a significant amount of room for various stakeholders in the cannabis industry to plan for and facilitate these types of events. The Moshky LLC business model is just one of many opportunities this license type creates. So, we wanted to kind of characterize what we're trying to do, but also, we want you to be very clear that the actual call to action here is broader than our business model. While we believe we have a very unique and promising business opportunity for the township, we first need to start with requesting whether or not the township's even interested in this license type in the first place. And we're not here today to ask that you approve our specific business model, our specific site, a number of events in your community. Instead, we're only asking that the township considers allowing events and this license type in general. Our text amendment is specifically limited in its scope to allow the township to open the door to this consideration. And even if the township does proceed with considering this amendment, you would have the opportunity to review, critique, and approve each individually requested event in the future. You can also choose to specifically not allow or deny any proposed event that doesn't meet any township standards you choose to come up with, should you proceed with this. And again, unlike other cannabis license types you might be familiar with throughout this process so far, an event license is by definition temporary, and it is unique in scope to the event proposed to your community. So just to kind of in conclusion, we ask that the township consider beginning the conversation by just considering whether or not this license type in general would be appropriate for your community. This will give my clients, other cannabis stakeholders in your township, other people who might want to look towards Northfield Township time to consider the business opportunities this license type can create to further business investment in your community. It would also allow other cannabis stakeholders in the township to consider and implement potentially proposed events of their own, especially considering we're going to have several new cannabis businesses in your community in the not too long future. One other thing I'd say is obviously, you have a lot of focus on cannabis issues right now. If you do decide to move forward with this consideration, if it would make your township more comfortable, I personally, and I think us as Moshky, would recommend that if you were to consider these text amendments, it would probably be appropriate in tandem to consider them with a moratorium on actually receiving applications from the event. That way, the township can kind of separate the issue of whether or not you should allow events in general from considering specific events being proposed to you. A moratorium would allow you to basically focus on the issue asked, whether or not events in general are appropriate, without fear of receiving, too much consideration for people who actually want to throw these events, like my clients and potentially other cannabis businesses in your community. So we only ask that you,
Travis?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Sorry, you've gone over quite a bit, but I think your presentation is valuable to commission and to the public. So I wanted to let you do some explanation.
Gotcha. That's all for me. Like I said, we're asking you to do one of many pieces for what we as Moshky would need to do. But we are open to answer any questions you might have, and we wanted to kind of give you an example of what a business like ours would do with that license type in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. So Natalie is going to run the public hearing, but for the benefit of the public, I kind of wanted to summarize quickly so everyone understands this is an application for a text amendment that would modify the zoning ordinance to permit temporary marijuana events. So if you have comments on that, Natalie is going to run a public hearing, and we're interested in hearing from the public. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any hands raised at the time. Okay, so the first person will be Koenig. So Koenig, I would unmute you and allow you to talk now. You do have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay, so yeah, so this specific case reminds me of actually a conversation that I had back in November when we took it to a vote, right? Were we gonna allow marijuana or not? And I was at the middle school, and actually Janet Chick was there with me, and I was explaining to her why I'm not a fan. I wasn't a fan of bringing marijuana in. I actually support medical marijuana. I don't, whatever people want to do in their private life, that's cool. But I didn't support it because I felt like when it comes in, right, that's going to be influence. And when you look at the kind of money, for example, that's coming in with that man Reni's company, I mean, it's not just a mom and pop marijuana shop. It's a significantly wealthy business. And so what is that going to do? It's going to naturally, these businesses they're going to exert influence. They're going to be supporting people in office who are going to be favorable to them. And that money provides money in campaigns, it provides lawn signs, it provides billboards, it provides name recognition. And in a town or a state with low information voters, they're not going to, those things buy votes. And so I think we're going to end up with candidates who are going to be willing to, or candidates or office holders who are going to bend to the desires of this business, and they're going to start to ask for more. They're going to start to want to bend the rules, are going to start to expand things. And this is inevitable. And she said, oh no, that wouldn't happen here. And I said, but this is human nature. Like, this happens everywhere. How is it not going to happen here? And she said, oh, because I know the people here and they would never do anything like that. And yet here we are, and we have yet to get any of these other businesses in the initial thing that the planning commission approved off the ground. And already there is another, regardless of its merits, there is another business saying, hey, we want to do this other kind of thing. We want to make amendments. We want to open it up even more. And when she said that to me, it would never happen here because I know these people. My thought was famous last words, because it's going to end up happening here. And I feel like tonight we're actually seeing it. It's beginning to happen. The other question that I had I'm sorry, I can't remember, Mr. Reni was talking, and he made an important point. He said, hey, you guys, you determined in your approvals, this property is approved. And it got me thinking, if this property was approved, or this type of property or whatever, and the business owner is on the planning commission, right? And isn't that the definition of conflict of interest? I mean, I don't know. Somebody explain to me. To me, that seems like the very definition of conflict of interest. I understand this is a different property, but I'm talking about the overall issue. And anyway, then now I'm done.
Thank you. Chair, before we take the next comment, since the commenter mentioned Trustee Chick, I don't know if it's customary to allow them to respond or if you want to hold to the end of the public hearing.
Well, and I was called out as well, and I would like opportunity to address that as well too. Thank you.
Chair, would you like to hold that to the end of the public hearing or allow them to respond now?
We'll allow to respond now. We can do it now.
Mr. Iaquinto, would you like to respond first?
Ladies first, if Janet would like to go first, because she mentioned her first. So.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the conversation. It was at the polls, and it did come up. Ms. Koenig's concern was that by allowing these businesses into the township, that they would be influencing the government in the township. And I can only speak for myself. I have not accepted any donations. I don't accept donations in any of my election runs, and I'm not going to. I don't want to be obligated to anybody. I don't know anybody that has or will. I trust these people. It's their judgment, but I just don't see that happening. So, I mean, this was a personal conversation, a personal opinion. It has nothing to do with, the facts of this issue that's in front of us. But I still believe that I don't see the influence on candidates or elected officials from cannabis businesses any more than we are typically not influenced by different businesses in that manner anyway. I mean, this is a small town, I don't see it happening. I'm sorry. That's just my personal opinion. So. I'm done.
Mr. Iaquinto, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, sir. So this is the second time that my character has been called into question. And I'm glad I have an opportunity to address this again. The first time was by Marlene Shockley and Tawn Beliger in public, and then Tawn Beliger didn't have the courage to come to the Board of Trustee meeting that day. My character was called into question where I was being asked to step down as a planning commissioner because of improper actions. I presented in that board meeting that I stated that I consulted 2 attorneys and the MTA, who is the advising body for townships, that my property, when I should disclose the purchase agreement for my property. And I was told that when and only when it is proper to do so is when there was going to be an application or discussion on my property. So I have followed the letter of the law continuously regarding my character as a planning commissioner as to when I should abstain and when I should participate in discussions. And I'm going to add this, that 7 of the people that spoke against the proposed development here at Max Marina and Dee's Place are avid supporters of Tawn Beliger and are coming out against me because I supported Ken Dignan in the last election. And these folks also, many of them don't come to our businesses. These folks basically are living across from dispensaries that have applications right downtown, several of them, but yet they didn't participate in the public hearings for those dispensaries that are going to be directly across the street from them. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to clear this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iaquinto. Back to the public hearing. Appreciate planning commissioners responding to those comments. Natalie, you want to see who else wants to talk?
Walter Anderson, I am going to unmute you and allow you to speak now.
Hey, Polly McNichol again on Noller. Regarding the events, and I don't know a lot about them, so forgive if I am speaking out of ignorance. I wonder what will make this, Reni, want to limit the attendance numbers. Why would he want to limit them? Why wouldn't they increase? And I asked myself, how will events like this help the township? I think I just picture them as giving the township some interesting nicknames, like what we could call Whitmore stock. I just think of the hash bashes.
Excuse me, it is improper to mention the past applicant's name. They mentioned the gentleman from Pure Roots, not the individuals that is the public hearing right now. Thank you. Please correct that.
Oh, I'm sorry if I had the wrong name. This is just about the events. He's talking every week of the year except 2. Holy mackerel. And he compares it to a beer tent. They're usually not in residential areas and they don't happen every week of the year. Is Whitmore Lake able to handle this? I mean, 1/3 of Renaissance Festival attendees is a lot of people. Do we have police that we can pull from their regular duties to handle this? I know these are rhetorical questions, but I just want to ask this of you all. And I wonder, what about the poor people that live nearby that every week of the year? I know I wouldn't. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I do see that one of the applicants does have their hand raised at this time. So Travis, I can allow you to speak now for 3 minutes.
If you'd like me to. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we're going to finish off any of the public comments first, and then we will return to the applicant or his representative for 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I'd like to stay with that format, please.
I did not see any at this. Oh, okay. I see one from Lenore. So Lenore, I am going to unmute you and allow you to speak.
Sorry. How about that? Am I unmuted now?
Go ahead, Lenore.
Yes, my name is Lenore Zelenock, and many of you may know as I'm your treasurer of the township. I just wanted to be clear that the board has not approved any event licenses. So I just want to make sure the public understands that at this point in time. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Lenore. I will remute you again now. Are there any other public comments at this time? I'm not seeing any hands risen. Okay, we have NM. So NM, I'm going to allow you to talk for 3 minutes.
Hello, Nate Moko, 305 Jennings. I get a kick out of that 50, less than 50 events a year, but they can camp there for up to 5 days or 7 days. I missed some of that. And a third the size of the Renaissance Festival or whatever electronic musical festival that guy was talking about. We got 8,000 citizens in this town. We don't need 10,000 people out here smoking pot. Yeah, well, we have our kids running down the streets. And the fact that Travis or Mike compares a beer tent to a pot tent that they want to have year-round, that blows me away. We have, in this town, as far as I know, we have one beer tent a year, if we're lucky, at the pond hockey tournament. And that's a great time. You know, I got no problem with that. But comparing beer to pot, that's the oldest argument in the book. And as far as for me, my neighbors, anyone else outside of downtown in the rural communities, we don't want anything to do with this. So you can keep it downtown. Don't try and bring it out to the horse farms. Don't try and bring it out to the rural areas. And go for it. And I'm done.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other public comments at this time on this agenda item?
Thank you. Then we'll go back to the applicant for 5 minutes, and please keep it to 5 minutes or less.
No problem. And thank you again. And comments from the community, we respect everyone's opinion. Let me again remind everyone what we're asking tonight. We have two things. We've given you an idea of what our specific business model might look like, but that is separate from what we're actually asking you to do tonight, which is to consider the idea of a temporary event license in general. We're not asking for a specific location, a number of events, approval for any specific events. All of those are very important questions that we personally believe needs to be an ongoing conversation, not only with the township directly, but with potentially any neighbors to said events, should we seek them. All we're asking for tonight is that you consider the idea of allowing the concept of a temporary event, not any number of them, not in a specific location. There are a lot of cannabis businesses beyond the ones that I'm currently working with that might take advantage of a license type like that. And they can, unfortunately, be as small or as large in scope under the license type. It can be a cannabis event license that is as small as a one-off cannabis tent, not unlike a beer tent, or as often planned as a recurring event or a series of recurring events. All of that, should it be an opportunity to be allowed in your township, would need two things. One, local approval for each individual event. So if there's 1, 10, or 40, each specific event needs township approval. And then each specific event also would need state approval for issues like security, odor, mitigation, etc. So again, just kind of make sure that we're focused in on what the request is tonight. All we're asking is that the township consider taking the first steps to allow the concept of a temporary event, not specifically for my clients, but for anyone interested in that license type, which is the first of many steps that a business like Moshky would need to take if they wanted to actually implement their business model. I'll turn any remaining time over to Mike to kind of just talk about what we're doing, but if there's any other questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is just for clarification, those events I brought up were for the sake of comparison and sake of contrast. It's what we are not. All of our events combined would have only a third of the amount of people Renaissance Fair has. So it's not everyone would be a third of the size. Also, no events would be, even as big as that 8,000 people. And the huge majority, like I said, would be smaller than your average night at Hill Auditorium or Michigan Theater. So totally understand that concern. We are trying to keep and create an intimate, deep into a lot of acreage for the sake of non-disruption, high-end venue. And it is for intimate events. It is not to invite a Coachella into your town. And to one more question I'd answer is why not more people? Well, the short answer is I've worked in this industry for 15 years and I know the pros and cons of several business models, and I'm not interested in building a business based on large events for all the obvious reasons. It can be disruptive. It's harder to manage. It is not the business we're interested in being in. Once again, that's for nothing wrong with that, but not what we're interested in.
Thank you. Chair, I think that that concludes all the comments we would have at the public hearing, and remind Planning Commission we do have this scheduled for new business discussion this evening as well.
Understood. I still have to go to the commissioners. Any comments, questions to the applicant on the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for case JPC 200009.
Support.
Support by Mr. Zarzeki. Any questions, comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That concludes the public hearing portion. We will continue on the agenda to item 8, reports of committees, Board of Trustees report. Ms. Chick.
Okay, it's kind of long. The board met August 11th. The board discussed the planning and building 2020 and 2021 special projects report. 6 items were presented to the board for consideration of the Planning Commission to work on. There was discussion about the crowded PC agenda with the new businesses coming in and the ability to take on all these items. The first item was a zoning ordinance update, which is an ongoing project. The Planning Commission was to create a subcommittee, but it has not had the time to convene. Also, development of packet and procedures. The board approved up to $3,000 toward this project with the planner. Number 3 was the Northfield site development, which is already ongoing. Number 4 was a downtown parking study and payment in lieu of parking. This was denied as the board felt it was not necessary at this time. Number 5 was the Parks and Rec master plan. The board determined that $5,000 was sufficient for this effort. The Parks and Rec will create the plan with the consultant along with the consulting with the planner, sorry. And then number 6 was the code enforcement item, which was supported by the board with no additional funding. The board also approved acceptance of a grant funding for a back-to-school cellular hotspot at the Public Safety Building, which will be located in the back of the parking lot behind the building. This is going to be really good for the students that don't have access to internet, and the library has one as well, so that is available to people as well. The board also approved the hiring of Kathleen Hager as front desk clerk. The board discussed selling township-owned properties around Horseshoe Lake and or preserving some for a future preserver park. The board also approved appointments to the DDA. Congratulations to Bridget Kastman, Eric Patterson as new members, and returning members Ann Iaquinto and Doug Wilbur. And then the board moved to take the next steps regarding the wastewater treatment plant equalization basin and go out for bid for construction. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Chick. ZBA report, Mr. Cousineau.
ZBA did not meet since our last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from staff, Ms. Bird, if she's present? I don't see that she is. I'm not sure. Mr. Lippins?
I'm not seeing Miss Bird here. Maybe she got cut off.
Okay. We'll move on to the planning consultant report, Mr. Lippins.
Oh, I'm seeing Marcus is in the. Sorry, I was looking to see if Miss Bird was in the audience. I see Marcus is there too, but I'm not sure we need his participation, but I'm very happy he's here to hear the public comments. For the planning consultant report, I had a couple things I wanted to mention tonight. One, we have been working since the August 5th meeting with applicants to address all remaining site plan issues, and we've had a lot of progress. That being said, we're working to turn around letters and get revisions pretty quickly here. I had several meetings last week to go through kind of the final questions we had and comments that staff, including myself, engineer, fire, had made to get those revisions made. And we've received revisions, and my goal is to turn around those letters within 24 hours or so and get the packet ready so that we can hold a special meeting next week. So I would just want to check in with Planning Commission that you are still good with the idea of doing a special meeting next Wednesday, and then also ask for your assistance and understanding from staff's perspective that we are working very diligently to get you the materials you need so that you can review cases at the next meeting. And that's where I'll make my report tonight, because we'll have another meeting next week. So,
Mr. Lippins, what date, can you give an exact date so that all the commissioners know that you're looking at a special meeting?
I believe you want to schedule the date on the 26th, August 26th, next Wednesday. That's the date that we discussed. And notice for that special meeting, I think, has to be out only 48 minutes or 48 hours in advance, although I will confirm that with the township attorney.
Thank you. Mr. Iaquinto?
I do have a Parks and Rec report, but I wanted to state that there is, for next week, Wednesday, there is a township DDA meeting scheduled as well. So I don't know if that is a conflict with scheduling two township boards at the same time at the same day. So I just wanted to mention that because there is one scheduled.
I don't believe it would be, Ms. Chick or Trustee Chick.
I think it's a problem because they aren't Zoom recorded right now, so I don't think we would have any kind of conflict that way. And typically most of our DDA meetings nobody hears about or knows about them or attends, I think, Planning Commission meetings. So,
well, as the DDA liaison to the PC, I dealt with this conflict for, I want to say, the first 3 years, because we often conflicted with the time the DDA was meeting, which was not great.
Commissioner Infante, since you would actually be required to go to both meetings, Planning Commission might want your input on the decision of when to schedule the special meeting.
Yeah.
I say we go ahead with the scheduled meeting, and I can always get in touch with the members of the DDA. Like I said, I've dealt with this the entire time with conflicting meetings, and I think we need to move forward with these applicants.
Very good. Mr. Kuzino.
So what specifically would be on the agenda for this upcoming special meeting?
So counting this evening, we have, I believe, 5 open applications, although there might be 6. I'm just counting them in my head. 6. I think 6 open applications that have had public hearings. All of those applicants have either, I've met with them since our last meeting, and they've either provided me with a timetable for providing all the final comments that have been provided by staff on their plans, or they've actually provided me with those comments. So, my intent is I haven't finished our letters yet, but my intent is to propose to the officers of the Planning Commission all of those, as many as 6 for discussions.
And are we going to be, is there going to be action items on there? Are we making recommendations at this point?
There will be action items. It will be a discussion with action. So there will be requests to make a recommendation to approve or deny on the conditional uses to the township board. And then you would be approving, denying, or approving with conditions site plan. You certainly don't have to make both of those decisions at one meeting. If you do approve site plans, my recommendation will be to approve contingent on a special land use or conditional use approval. So they will be on the agenda as discussion items, which means decision. Yeah.
Mr. Lippins, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you plan to do all 6 at that special meeting?
Well, yeah, we could, or we could do 2 meetings with 3 each, which we've discussed in the past. If so, I think that's fine, but we would want to time it so we could send them to the board kind of together, right?
I agree with that. I don't want to do more than 3, and I would like to send all 6 with recommendations, whichever way the recommendations may be, to the board at one time. So in other words, if we hear the first 3 at the first meeting, I'd like to table any action until we hear the second 3, have all 6 make the decision on a recommendation and forward them simultaneously, as we spoke about in the past. Am I correct?
Yes, we have talked about that. I think that would work.
And I am not opposed to having more than one special meeting if need be to accomplish that. I don't know about the other commissioners, so perhaps a show of hands, or at least let's get an understanding. I know myself, Miss Infante already indicated that she would be available. The other commissioners would be available for the Wednesday special meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it looks like we're all there. So Mr. Lippins, if you feel, and if we have a quorum to do so, to do back-to-back special meetings or day apart special meeting, I don't know the timing element of it with your applicants and their information.
I mean, I would point out that you have a regularly scheduled meeting on September 2nd. So it would be possible to do maybe 3 cases on the 26th and the other 3 at your regular meeting. Although there is other business that might also appear on that meeting agenda, but or if you'd prefer to do like a Wednesday or a Thursday, we could talk about that if you want to try 2 meetings next week.
So at this point, to your knowledge, what would we have other than these applicants as far as the September 2nd meeting?
I've been working, and I know the Marcus OHM, our engineer, has been working on a review of the People's Express site. And I am, again, not finished with the recommendation on that site, but that is one case that I anticipate coming up soon. And if I do find them to be ready, I would put them on the next agenda.
I still think that's doable with 3 cases and then 1 additional item. I don't think any other of the commissioners would have an opposition to that, although they could comment if they do. But another question, perhaps Ms. Chick can help with, when is the first meeting of the Board of Trustees in September?
October, hang on, I got my calendar.
It is
The
the 8th.
Yeah.
So if I am at this point, I would be okay with having a special meeting next Wednesday, do our regular meeting on September 2nd, have all the 6 applicants for this process heard by the 2nd, and forward recommendation after discussion on September 2nd to the Board of Trustees. Is everyone agree, or you agree with that, Mr. Lippins?
It seems like a good way to do it, for sure. And that might give me a little bit more time for some of the applicants that I think are working on revisions or have turned in revisions this week. It would give Marcus and I a little bit more time with those newer revisions. I think that seems reasonable. The one thing I would note is that the Township Board requests their packets repaired on Tuesday. So in the past, we've tried to hold a public hearing or make a vote and then get something on the next board agenda, and it's caused some issues. So I would anticipate probably working with the manager to have the board review Planning Commission decisions at the September 22nd meeting. And then, of course, the manager could advise me that the board might want to accept that on the agenda for the 8th as well. But that's not really my decision. That's a board decision and the manager. If they would like to take items from Planning Commission on the Thursday prior to their meeting, I think they could. And, Trustee Chick, I think you could potentially work with the board to facilitate it if you think it's appropriate.
Ms. Chick?
Actually, I was going to ask the board if we're finished with all of these conditional use and site plan requests after our October 2nd meeting and requesting a special meeting at the board with just those 6 items to get that done, because our agendas are getting really, really full at the board level, a regular meeting. So it might be better to have a special meeting and just take care of it then.
Just a correction, that was September 2nd, Ms. Chick.
Yeah, sorry.
October, right.
I know.
Right, and I was going to offer that up as a suggestion also, Mr. Lippins, with the manager and the board, that provided we get all of our recommendations done on the 2nd, that
yes,
it may benefit the applicants and the board to take a special meeting to address just those items. Great suggestion from Ms. Chick. Mr. Kuzno.
So I just want to be clear. We're deciding as a planning commission of the 6 applicants that are out there for how many permits are being sought after. That's a question. How many permits are being sought after by the 6 different applicants at this time?
Mr. Lippins.
So there are 3 permits or 3 sites essentially that could be approved with what is working out to be 2 permits per site. A permit for recreational and permit for medical use. That may or may not be the way that it works, but I anticipate that each business that is approved will indeed request 2 of those licenses or permits. And the way the process works is you do have the marijuana facility local development agreement, which permits both Planning Commission and the board to recommend a precedence for how to handle those properties based on the scoring matrix and as part of the conditional use review. In previous discussions about procedure, the Planning Commission has essentially said that they think it would be, or the commission, and this is not in a vote form, but in a discussion form, thinks it would be a cleaner process if the precedence discussion was left to the board. But you actually haven't taken that action yet. So when we have discussions and then you make a vote on these cases, there'll be another opportunity for planning commissioners to express their opinion about precedents if you choose to do so. But either way, you'll be making a recommendation on the conditional use, and you're required to make a recommendation on the conditional use to the board for consideration on each conditional use. Is that helpful, Commissioner Casino?
Yes. However, of the 6 applicants right now, has the grow permit been, have they withdrawn their request at this point in time or not? Is that part of the 6?
Thank you. I meant to, this is actually a perfect time because this is my planning consultant update and it slipped my mind. I did want to update Planning Commission that the applicant, Great Lakes Logistics, who had applied for a grow permit on, I believe it was Northfield Church Road. Yes. Did withdraw that application. So they are no longer pursuing that application. They did provide me with a letter requesting 180 days possibly to find a new site for their marijuana facility application. And I need to basically forward that to the board to see if the board would be inclined to allow them some time to recite. But I do think for Planning Commission's benefit, I think their decision to do that was in response to what you heard at the public hearing. I guess it was, in my opinion, as the planner, I think that was a prudent decision on their part.
So then the 6 remaining, that would have been 7 applications. The 6 remaining are still pursuing medical and adult use recreational, correct?
Correct.
All right.
And we have, I forgot to mention this in my update as well. We have received an application from Ketty for marijuana grow facility. That came in later, and we have to schedule a public hearing for that as well. And I do anticipate that being scheduled in time for your second meeting in September. So there's more cases and other public hearings that at this time, the earliest I think we can schedule public hearings is for that second meeting.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Lippins? I think it's pretty clear how we can proceed, Mr. Lippins.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Parks and Recreation report, Mr. Iaquinto.
Thank you. We have not had a meeting since our last meeting, but there is a meeting that is open to the public tomorrow. It will be via Zoom at 7 o'clock. And if you would like to get that connection for Zoom, please contact Jennifer Carlisle tomorrow and she can send it to you from the township. Again, it is an open meeting to anyone and all in the public. And again, the Bark Park has the new signage with the new rules that are posted there. And the community garden is doing very well. And the park, again, is open for anyone in the community adjacent to the post office for people to come and enjoy a picnic or just enjoy the open space there. Thank you.
Thank you. Downtown Planning Group report, Ms. Infante.
Has not met since our last meeting.
Thank you. There's no unfinished business, item 9. Before we get to item 10, I would like to make a motion for a 7-minute recess.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No one. Thank you. So we'll try to shoot back here at approximately 9:12.
That's good. Thank you.
just to check, is Ms. Infante present? Possibly not.
Apparently
not. Should we give it a minute, Commissioner Infante?
Sorry, I'm here. I had a raccoon in my chicken coop. I'm not kidding.
Is Ms. Chick present? I think we're all present. Mr. Dwyer, I believe, was here. He is. Okay, so thank you all for being on time. We'll move on to new business item 10A. That's case JPC 200009 Moshky LLC. The applicant is requesting to amend Chapter 23 Ordinance 19-67 to permit marijuana event organizers and temporary marijuana events. And with this, the applicant gave quite a detailed presentation for the public hearing. I would go to them again if they would like to keep a brief comment further, and then we would go to the Mr. Lippins report. So is the applicant available?
Sure. I think both Mike and I are, but I'll take the start and try to be real brief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. So just to kind of summarize again, we have a business idea in mind, and we did kind of give you some information about what that is. But what we're specifically asking the township tonight is to start the conversation on considering whether or not temporary event licenses as a license type would be appropriate for the township. If you were to make that decision, there would be a series of additional very important questions, such as where are those events allowed to be, how many a year, what applicants are allowed to have them, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want to answer any of those questions. We just want the township to start considering the license type itself. And if you're worried about what kind of doors that license type might open, I would again encourage you to consider that a moratorium on even accepting that license type might be appropriate if you need time to consider the issue. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Lippins.
Yes, so I agree with how the applicant has characterized the request. This is not a request for a specific business, but a request for a zoning amendment. So in amending the zoning ordinance, there are many different types of event type businesses that could be permitted, and we would have the ability to craft regulations to both control what districts those events could be permitted in, as well as what standards would be applied to those businesses. I think that you're in receipt of my review, and I am. There are 2 points that I wanted to take. It's certainly quite common if an applicant requests a text amendment that they'll provide recommended text to the township. In this case, I would certainly advise that you consider instead the text that we've provided in our review, which might be very similar, but we've done some thinking about standards that could be applied as well. However, so that's one point. I think the other and more relevant point this evening is that we are recommending you deny this application. I think it's important to understand that if you deny this application, it does not prevent the township from pursuing these types of events in the future. The township can initiate a text amendment according to its rules, goals, Planning Commission's work plan, the goals set by the board for the year, the board's work plan. really at any time. As you know, Planning Commission has been discussing these rules, the emergency rules that permitted the temporary marijuana events since they were initially authorized. And, most recently, Planning Commission did ask the board for feedback on whether or not we should pursue this. And that motion to pursue these uses failed. It failed 3-3, so I would not call that a really conclusive vote for all time, but it did fail nonetheless. So based on that, and based on really the township's capacity to consider this issue at this time, I've recommended a denial of the text amendment. And what I would say is that the application that was filed holding the public hearing, we're required to hold a public hearing, and you're required to make a recommendation on their application to the board. So we will be forwarding this to the board following your vote. Another possibility, if planning commissioners are not inclined to take our recommendation to deny the application tonight, would be to table to a specific date if you would like to take this issue up or keep this case open to a future date. That is an option. I think it might be cleaner to deny the requests, and then if you want to put this issue on a future work plan, to request that we take the issue up and seek some guidance from the board on whether or not this is a use we want to pursue in the township at a future date. So I hope that it does enough in kind of understanding the township's position at this time, and I think it's up for discussion. I would certainly be interested in hearing planning commissioners' opinion about what action you think is appropriate, what course you might want to take in the future related to this use, given that we do know the board had at this time not requested planning commission to take up action on the item.
Thank you, Mr. Lippins. Before we get into other commissioners' comments, I'd like to start off, and I'd like to start off very basically. Maybe I misunderstood through your description. And perhaps both you, I'd like to hear from both you and the applicant, actually. So how did we arrive with the applicant tonight? Of course, we did the public hearing. So was this at request of the applicant to go further, considering your recommendation, or was it your direction for the applicant to continue considering your recommendation?
I did not have a conversation with the applicant request that they withdraw their application. Since they'd filed the application, it was my recommendation to schedule a public hearing on the application.
Okay. My opinion, and I'm speaking as one commissioner, I feel the obligation should have been, if this is your recommendation, that the applicant had been addressed somehow, or perhaps had conversation or a better decision for them to go forward. But I'd also like to hear perhaps Mr. Copenhaver representing the applicant. I'd like to hear his comment.
Sure. Would Commissioner Iaquinto like to go first? I saw he had his hand up. I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll hear from you first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. And again, we really appreciate the fact that you are taking up our request. I think personally, obviously, I'm working with other cannabis stakeholders here in your township right now. I would have personally preferred that this question not necessarily be raised to the Planning Commission at this specific meeting, considering all the other cannabis topics you guys are very focused on. We completely respect that that process is very engaging right now, and timing wise, we wouldn't have necessarily chosen to be on this specific meeting because we do feel our request is very separate from the current questions at hand. So I would ask that you, hopefully to the best of your ability, try to consider it separate from the actual other cannabis stakeholders right now. What we're trying to do is take a multi-step approach with the township. It's very important for us that if we're going to operate a business like this in any community, that we explain to you what we want to do, and then we take the appropriate steps to get there. This is one of many steps. Now, granted, the timing is what it is. We clearly have some cannabis decisions to make as Northfield Township right now, and we can't, in good faith, separate those decisions from the requests we're currently making. But I would like to say for your consideration that should you choose to move forward on this issue right now, it doesn't necessarily put any new cannabis business licenses into your community. It would be a door that could be pursued not only by our client that I'm currently working with, but other cannabis stakeholders too. But it is a one of several steps that would need to happen to actually facilitate any of this. So all that being considered, even if you're inclined to not necessarily move forward with this topic right now, all our goal was tonight and in furtherance of actually submitting this text amendment application in the first place was to notify you, one, that we would like to do this and work with you directly should we do so. And two, it's a new cannabis license type. All of these cannabis licenses are clearly very new in the state of Michigan. They take some time to kind of understand how they work, what their limitations are. And it was very important for us that we directly present you with the opportunities this specific license type creates so that we could start having an engaging back and forth conversation with you. We're very, very open to doing that. And regardless of whatever decision you guys make, please understand that my client group is very interested in doing this specifically in your community. So we open any conversation you'd like to have moving forward, regardless of decisions tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Copenhaver. Ms. Chick.
Okay, I appreciate Moshky's interest in Northfield Township, I really do. My question would be, were they aware that the board had already denied moving forward on the temporary event permits? And if they were, I was kind of surprised to see them on the agenda.
So can I provide a little explanation here too? So, I mean, I would actually be interested in hearing from the applicant if they would like to request maybe Planning Commission delaying action on this for the time being. But prior to that, just for so Planning Commission can understand, and partially my recommendation to hold the public hearing is to make sure that the applications are processed fairly. An application for a text amendment is required and eligible for a public hearing. So the notice that we did is about processing a case. And the application was filed actually quite some time ago and then delayed even more because of the COVID-19 delay and all of our other business. So when we have the feedback, which was really a separate process, right? So the board didn't deny these uses. What the board's action was saying, do we want Planning Commission to take up these uses? They said no, right? We still have an obligation to process this text amendment. We still have an obligation to essentially follow the procedure. And if we have an application, hold a public hearing. You can, now that we've held the public hearing, you could vote to table to the future, and maybe the applicant could ask you to do that if they want. I kind of agree that the timing isn't perfect, and that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking my recommendation is to deny, because I think it's too much at this time. And we don't have a clear direction on policy and whether or not the board's interested in doing this. And we're not required to do it, right? I did not hear a lot of people at the public hearing tonight saying they were in favor of the use, but at the same time, you know, maybe we'd hear more if we did it 6 months from now. Maybe we'd hear more people saying they don't support it. I don't know. Either way, we've got to hold a public hearing. So I think that there's been a lot going on, and really I think it's important to know that if I had have asked them to withdraw their application without holding a public hearing, I feel like that would have been inappropriate on my part. But I do feel like I have to make a recommendation to you based on what I know, which includes the feedback of the board and all of our prior discussions on the topic. So I hope that's helpful, and I certainly can talk more to it.
Mr. Iaquinto.
I'm prepared to make a motion to table this, if I can do so.
You can make that motion.
I recommend the table case JPC 200009, Moshky LLC. The applicant is requesting to amend Chapter 23 Ordinance 19-67 to permit marijuana event organizers and temporary marijuana events for 180 days.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Infante. Any questions, comments on that motion? I know I have one or two. Any other commissioners? Mr. Cousineau?
I guess my question is, why would we table this thing? Why don't we just deny it and take it up at our leisure when we feel like we're ready to do these kinds of things, and not be requested by outside individuals to make those amendments to our zoning ordinance?
Mr. Chair, I believe that when there's a motion to table that there isn't discussion. Is that correct according to Robert's Rules of Order?
Whoa, really?
I just want to
discussing, gentlemen, we're discussing, right? We have the motion is supported. Questions, comments on the motion. Mr. Cousineau has that question.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have an additional part to what Mr. Cousineau asked, and Mr. Lippins can probably answer this. If indeed the commission were to follow through with your recommendation and deny this request, would the applicant have to start from square one with new fees and new public hearing in the future? Mr. Lippins?
Yes. So you would be making a recommendation to deny to the board. So we would forward this case to the board, and then the board would ultimately either accept Planning Commission's recommendation or make their own decision. In that case, this case that was filed would be resolved. And if they wanted to take up another text amendment, that would be one option they would have, would be to file another application for a text amendment.
That's my point. The applicant went through an effort. They, in good faith, followed through the procedure. I see that you did not respond to the applicant or connect with the applicant, although you gave your explanation why we continued and had the public hearing. But I don't think it's proper that the applicant have to start from square one again. That's why I'm in favor of tabling the whole issue.
Me too.
And that way the public hearing that we just had would stand, and the applicant doesn't have to start from square one and start with fresh freeze again. Anyone else have? Mr. Cousineau, do you perhaps have another question about that?
Well, I'm just curious if this is something that the township's interested in. We can take this all by ourselves. We don't need somebody else to request us to make a change to our amendment or to our documentation. We can do that on our own, can't we?
It's the applicant's right to request that.
Right, and it's our right to deny it too. So, okay.
It's also our right to table it, which is why I'm in agreement with Mr. Iaquinto's motion. Ms. Chick.
Well, that was my question is, anybody can make a request an amendment to an ordinance and we are obligated to follow through on it. So whether we do it or the board decides or whoever decides to take up a text amendment, we have to follow through with it. And this is just one way of handling it so that the applicant doesn't have to pay additional fees should they decide to come back.
Thank you. Mr. Dwyer?
So I've got some comments on the merits of the application rather than the process and the merits of the process and what we should and shouldn't do. I'm not in favor of tabling it. I'm not in favor of kicking this down the road. We've got enough to do than revisit this. If we want to write or change an ordinance, then we need to do it in a deliberative way, not reacting to an applicant who has a very narrow and self-interested application, which on the face of it is, we're going to run 40 events a year, but we're not asking you to approve 40 events a year. Just give us a general change in the language that allows us to apply for 40 events a year, and then we'll send you an individual application 40 times a year.
Okay, I'd like
That
to.
makes no sense to me.
I hear your comment. I have an additional comment.
And I'd also, it was obvious that these events are only successful if they're selling marijuana. So what's that? Another retail license. You just get to use it on the premises instead of having to take it away.
I think there's some assumptions on your part on that comment, but
it could be. That's what I got out of it.
Okay. I would like to remind all my commissioners that the Planning Commission was authorized by the board last fall of 2019 to investigate these same uses that we're discussing today. This is not a new topic.
Right.
Actually, I went as far as to look at the recording from the so noted Board of Trustee meeting, which was July 23rd, 2020. And I'm going to tell you what the facts are that happened at that board meeting. 1 hour and 37 minutes into the meeting, Trustee Beliger motioned that no further steps be considered on the marijuana uses. That motion failed 3-3. At 1 hour 42 minutes into the meeting, Ms. Chick motioned to have the PC to consider all 4 uses and recommend or for approval or denial to the board on these uses. So that also failed 3-3. But what all actuality happened was Trustee Bellinger's request or motion that the Planning Commission not consider it anymore failed. Ms. Chick's motion was a motion that was already proposed in the fall of 2019. It was already a majority vote. So what you have is there wasn't a yes, the Planning Commission should check into it, and a no, the Planning Commission should check into it. We already acted on this. We had Mr. Lippins produce details of each use for the Board of Trustees to view, which we got no response back on. So indeed, this is still an open topic. We were still open to discuss it in the fall, and as far as I'm concerned, we are today. And it is up to the board if they want to discuss it in the future. Actually, 1 hour and 51 minutes into that same meeting, Mr. Lippins explained it was already requested and the PC wanted to know if they should proceed. So this is not anything generated by this applicant in my estimation.
Correct. Chair, I wanted to confirm what you're saying about the board meeting, and indeed that meeting was in response to the report that Planning Commission had forwarded to the board. So I mean, I took that motion to mean they wanted no further action from Planning Commission, and you know, that doesn't mean that I don't disagree with you, Chair, that you know, you could take action on this, but I don't think we have well, I think the issue tonight is related to this specific application. So
I agree. So my point being, Mr. Lippins, is that the motion to not have the planning commission take further steps what failed, the one that Ms. Belanger made. That's a key point. But besides that, I don't want to beat that horse anymore. Is there any other comments regarding the
Well,
Mr. Zarzaki?
I'll get to him. I'm sorry, Mr. Zarzaki. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion, obviously, whether we should approve delaying this or just deny it. We can deny this existing request and we still have the open one from previous. We're not going to have time to take this up in 180 days, most likely. We're still going to be dealing with the other issues. 180 days from now, we're going to be in the middle of, or just finishing elections and all the hoopla that goes with all of that. The board, the trustees board is going to change most likely in some manner. We may have new members or a lot of the older members coming back yet, but we're going to have a different board to deal with. So I believe we should deny this application. We still have the original application or original direction open, and we can take it up again once we get the initial marijuana requests taken care of to the board. They have enough to deal with right now, but that's what my opinion is.
Thank you, Mr. Zarzaki. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Can you please repeat your motion, Mr. Iaquinto?
Yes, sir. That was to table case JPC 200009 Moshky LLC for 180 days.
And that was supported by Ms.
Absolutely.
We'll do a roll call vote, Mr. Zarzaki.
Mute yourself.
Sorry there. Ms. Chick,
Yes.
Mr. Kuzno,
No.
Mr. Dreyer,
No.
Mr. Iaquinto,
Yes.
Ms. Afonte,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Zarzaki, no. Passes, however, 4-3.
4-3. Okay. Anything further, Mr. Lippins?
Yes, I would. I mean, you've already voted, but I would maybe like to, I had previously said I'd like to hear from the applicant to see if they would like their case tabled. So now, since it is tabled, I guess I would just ask the applicant to confirm they understand that Planning Commission has tabled the case for 180 days. That would mean sometime within the next 180 days, I'd be looking for any more information that might be supplement my recommendation or modify my recommendation to Planning Commission, and certainly looking to reschedule the case. Certainly open it up and remind the applicant they'd be welcome to check in with me at any time. I do want to make sure our timing of bringing this back to Planning Commission is coordinated with them. And I'll certainly consult with the Planning Commission as to when they might like to hear it again too. So applicants, either Travis or Mike, just please confirm you understand and know what Planning Commission's action is this evening.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And obviously we appreciate that we had a bit of several comments and a bit of a conflicted vote there. I would have more than happily recommended that you table this. Just for perspective, I personally understand what Paul's doing. We appreciate that he's moving this agenda item, through the process. We made this request just for everyone's understanding, like before we even understood what COVID was several months ago. And obviously the timing of not only the entire COVID situation, but the cannabis application processing with your township, was not exactly what we were anticipating when we brought this to your attention. So we appreciate there's several questions. I'm sure all of you have very realistically need time to think about. Tabling is a perfect outcome for us. Our entire goal this evening was to introduce you to this license type idea, explain to you why we specifically want it, but also explain to you that even if that's what we want, that is not what we're requesting you to do. You know, at the time that your community was making cannabis ordinance decisions, and trust me, I'm a cannabis attorney. I've been doing this for 6 years. You know, there are several different types of cannabis licenses. This is one of many. And different cannabis stakeholders, ourselves and other applicants, can do a lot of different things with each of these license types. We, as a company, Moshky, want to impress upon Northfield Township that we have an idea of what we want to do, but it is our desire to do that with you through all the steps, not just the one where you tell us we can do it. So we appreciate your consideration so far. We appreciate the timing of that consideration wasn't ideal, but we look forward to working with you. And Paul, thank you for your work on this. You know, we completely understand that a denial is not necessarily, you know, opposition to our goals here. So we get that. And thank you so much for everyone's time.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, this is probably after the fact since we've already voted to table it, but I'm wondering if Travis or Mr. Raspatello, do they even want to come back in 180 days, or do they want to wait until next year to look at this again? I mean, they can withdraw their request at any time, correct?
I'll let Mike take this one, Mike, if you can chime in, but just to kind of tee him up, like I don't think it's going to be very shocking for you guys to understand that we're looking for a relationship with a municipality. You're the top of our list, but we're currently looking for location. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean it when I say I'm committed to building this beautiful venue in the woods near where you guys are sitting right now, and that is all we wanted to impress upon you. I'm not from the cannabis industry. I'm not going to pretend I completely understand the process, but I would love to walk through this business with you guys whenever anyone would like to take that time, explain how we would not be a retailer, how we would partner with existing retailers and whatnot, and really just walk you through exactly what we're trying to do. And ultimately, I'm always going to be grateful for the opportunity to explain to you guys, you know, what an event with legal cannabis can look like, because I don't blame you for picturing Hash Bash or picturing, you know, some big disruptive event. And once again, just appreciative that we're able to kind of give a look at what a license like this could be used for, because I agree it's obviously not the first thing you imagine when you think of a license type like this. So thanks again for the opportunity to chat.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll go to item 11, approval of preceding minutes. I make a motion we approve the minutes and dispense with reading. Supported by Mr. Zarzecki. Any questions, comment? No?
No, it's not a support. There's an error.
Okay.
In item 1, it says call to order. You were not present, so you could not call it to order. I did.
Okay. If we can get support, then we can make the corrections. Let's do it that way. Supported by Ms. Chick. Okay, so Mr. Zarzecki, your comment is I need to be off of the minutes.
Well, like I said, you are listed as being absent with notice.
Right.
And I was the one that called the meeting to order so that the minutes are correct.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other corrections? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Final call to the public, Mr. Lippins or Ms. Bond?
Ms. Bond, you want to take it?
Yep. Let's see. So Lenore looks like she has her hand raised. So Lenore, I'm going to unmute you and allow you to talk now.
Again, my name is Lenore Zelenock. I live at 1446 Mile. I'm also the township treasurer. I just wanted to let people know that the play path on Barker Road needs volunteers this Friday, starting at 9 a.m. We will be putting in benches and chalkboards and music instruments. So we will have a post hole digger and we need a lot of help. More the merrier, the easier it makes the work. The other thing I would like to make a comment is, now I am speaking as your elected treasurer. The people I represent in our township is our residents and voters.
I have always funded my own campaigns. In my opinion, the marijuana ordinances, including the licenses and the location, represent the voters. I encourage all residents to read the ordinances. Thank you very much.
I am going to remute you again now. At this time, I don't see any other hands raised for public comment. Do we have any other public comment? Okay, not seeing any hands raised.
Thank you. We'll move on to comments from commissioners. Mr. Cousineau. Is that a no?
No comment, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dwyer.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Chip.
Yep, I do want to encourage anybody that's interested, as Lenore mentioned, to volunteer to help out with the play path. It's a lot of heavy work this time around. It's they need post holes and post hole diggers and that kind of thing. So if anybody has a strong arm and the will to come out and help, it's mostly appreciated. And I also want to second her comment in that we are funding our own campaigns, and it's really disturbing to hear conspiracy theories. I know it's a small town and people like drama, but I think it's disrespectful to the elected officials and those that are running to assume that they can be manipulated. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Infante.
None, thank you.
Mr. Zarzeki.
None additional.
Mr. Iaquinto.
None additional. Thank you, sir.
None for me. I'd like to announce the next regular meeting, September 2nd, 2020. And we have the possibility of the special meeting next Wednesday. And I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Wait, question. Don't we know? Are we having a special meeting or not? How do we not know that?
Chair, you want me to field that one?
Please.
So I would say the way the chair phrased it is correct. We have an agreement to have a special meeting on the 26th, but it hasn't been noticed or published yet. So the rules for publishing that are pretty specific. I believe it's 48-hour notice. It might be 24-hour notice. And I'll check with the attorney on that. But when it's noticed, Planning Commission will be limited to discussing only the items on that agenda because it's a special meeting. Does that make sense? Trustee Chick?
Yeah.
I think it could be 18 hours, but we should probably check, yeah.
So we put it on our schedule anyway.
Wow. And we're going to post it as soon as possible too, right? Okay, so.
Ms. Bird and I are working on the agenda in the packet, so.
Okay. Do we know which one of them? I'm sorry. Do we know which three are going to be first? Is it how are we deciding the order of which three are on the first agenda versus the second meeting?
And that's a big issue I wish we could talk about.
I have a very simple answer to it. I will just schedule the applications in the order that the site plan and conditional use applications were applied. But we're talking about three per meeting, so it'll really be the same anyway. However, there might be a few that aren't ready. So it'll be a combination of, are you ready? And when did you file your application?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying.
Wait.
Ms. Chick.
I just noticed something really quickly. I apologize. And Mr. Lippins, I noticed as I was putting my paperwork away for the Michigan PureGreen LLC on their conditional use application form, under an application for conditional use must contain the following information. All 4 boxes are not checked. Have they not supplied anything? Is that what that's about? It's a proof of ownership, legal description, scaled and accurate survey drawings, and the site plan.
Trustee Chick, I have to review that application. I'm not sure I can answer that right now.
Okay.
But I don't think there's an issue with any of those items, but sometimes people's applications aren't you know, there's a difference between the form you fill out and the information you provide. So I will look at the application to make sure that the form accurately states what we've received.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Everyone, good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.